Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, all of that and a bit more, it's my weekly wrap-up. Now, I told you in my weekly wrap-up last week that I always film these on a Saturday morning. This week, I'm actually filming it on a Friday evening, and I have to tell you, I'm absolutely knackered. I've had the worst, I've had the worst day ever. We had an electrician in doing some work in the bedroom, which we're kind of redecorating and redoing at the moment. So there was loads of banging going on all morning. I had a nightmare of a day at work, so loads of issues at work. And then people in the UK will know this already. We've had a terrible storm today. So a very bad storm with very high winds. So my son's school was shut, so he was at home unexpectedly, which was fine. He got on and did things by himself, but he needed a bit of support getting set up in the morning. But it also meant that I kept on having to check whether the garden was still there and things like that. So we've lost a fence panel in the back garden, and all the garden furniture is all over the place, but touch wood, nothing else, nothing any worse than that. So I think some people in the UK have suffered a lot worse than we have in the storm today. So it seems to be receding now, and yeah, hopefully we're okay, and if you're in the UK, hopefully you're okay too. Right, so yeah, so I'm filming this on Friday evening, having had a really bad day. I'm very tired, but I know I've got loads of jobs to do tomorrow to do with the bedroom. So there's a fair chance I just won't have time to do this tomorrow. So I've got a bit of a window this evening, so I thought I'd just get it done. So I will, as usual, talk about what I've been reading this week, kind of reading plans for the next week. I'll talk a bit about how I'm doing with the 100-book challenge, and I'll let you know what's coming up on the channel in the next week or so. I've managed to get quite ahead with kind of scheduling videos and things like that, so I've got a good idea of everything that's going to be on in the coming week. Right, so first up, what have I been reading? So let me get my Goodreads up. So when I spoke to you last week, I was reading 6 stories by Wesolowski, which was great. So I finished it, really good mystery, elements of horror and the supernatural, told in a really interesting way. So 6 different people telling their version of a past disappearance of somebody, to a podcaster. Fantastic twist at the end. All in all, it was really, really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have done a review video of it, which will be up, I think, not this coming week, but the week after. So look out for that. So yeah, that was really good, and looking forward to reading the next 5 books in the series, all of which I have. After that, I read the 4th book in the Survivalist series, The Doomsayer by Joe R Lansdale, which was I really enjoyed this. So it's very formulaic and quite cheesy, but just very entertaining. So the series, as I've said on the channel before, the series is about this dude, John Rourke, who is a survivalist, who is trying to get back to his family after a nuclear war that's decimated America. In this book, there are, I think, 4 different storylines, all going on in parallel. So you've got Rourke trying to get to his family. You've got this guy Rubenstein, who's like a friend of Rourke's, who's trying to get to his family. You've got Rourke's family trying to survive against some people who are after them. And then you've got a separate plot about these Russians who've invaded, who are all kind of battling against each other. And Jerry Ahern does a great job of bouncing between those 4 plots, and just, I mean, it's a very formulaic and cheap trick to write like that, but it really works. He really keeps the pace up on all 4 stories, and I couldn't put it down. I thought it was fantastic. After that, I had one that was a reread. So I reread The Drivein by Joe R Lansdale, which was originally published in 1988, I think, and I think I read it not long after it came out. Again, I have done a review video for that. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot weirder than I remembered it. I remembered it being quite a straightforward book, but it's really off the wall. It's kind of like bizarro horror, really. So about these group of friends who go to a drive-in movie theatre for like an all-night horror movie marathon, and the drive-in movie theatre gets cut off from the rest of the world, and loads of weird shit goes down, basically. But yeah, very, very entertaining, quite funny, quite dark. And yeah, as I say, very, very weird. So I enjoyed that enormously. Next up, a book I've been meaning to read forever, which is The Flood by Michael McDowell, so the first of the Blackwater series. So if you're not familiar with it, it was originally published in the 80s, and I remember my local library having copies of the books. So there are 6 books in the series, and like Stephen King's The Green Mile, and in fact in the introduction to The Green Mile, King calls it out as an influence. Like The Green Mile, it was published 1 book a month for 6 months. So it was published, in instalments. Each book is like a short novel, so about 180, 200 pages, that sort of length. So I've got the Kindle edition, which was published recently by Valancourt Books, which has all 6 books in it. So I am counting them as 1 book each rather than the whole thing as one, because hey, I'm doing a 100 book challenge, so I need to read as many books as I can. But yeah, really enjoyable. So it's like a Southern Gothic set in, I'm trying to think when it's set, I guess like the 20s or 30s, again, I can't remember where it's set either, in the deep south somewhere, about this town that gets flooded kind of fairly regularly, and in one of the floods, a young woman who's like an outsider from the town is discovered stranded in a hotel, and it's about how she kind of gets involved with one of the really big rich families in the town, and there's clearly something slightly off about this young woman, but nobody's really seeing it yet. So yeah, it was just really entertaining, very melodramatic, some nice kind of subtle horror twists and things like that. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I can see why it's such a well thought of book, and I'm very much enjoying, very much looking forward to reading the next books in the series. Sorry, Mark, I did say I was tired. My brain is really not working at all. And then after that, for February Fantasy Stories, I read from this volume, although actually I read it on my Kindle, but it's in this volume, At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. So again, I first read that, I think I first read it when I was about 12. So it's one of the first adult books I read, and certainly I think the first proper horror book I read was a UK omnibus edition from, I think, Grafton Books, that had At the Mountains of Madness and some other stories, I forget which ones. So yeah, reread At the Mountains of Madness for February Fantasy Stories as dark fantasy. So I think people would debate, is it horror, is it science fiction? I think it fits as dark fantasy because I don't think it's got any basis in science. It's definitely got many fantastic elements, and it's definitely got a huge darkness to it. So part of the Cthulhu mythos about a expedition to the Antarctic that uncovers a mysterious ancient city that was ruled by the dark elder gods, or whatever Lovecraft calls them. It was fine, but it wasn't as good as I remembered it. So I remembered really, really liking it. And maybe it was just because I'd read nothing like it when I first read it. Reading it now, it does feel a bit too long. So it's, again, I'm not sure exactly how long it is, but I think kind of about 180 pages, something like that. And he goes into like incredibly detailed descriptions of things. And as a result, it does drag a bit. Towards the end, it really kicks into gear. And it's definitely got a certain something. He certainly had an incredibly fevered imagination, and to the extent that somehow he makes these things seem real. It's almost like you can imagine that he'd somehow seen into another world, and that's where all his stories came from. So yeah, his imagination is almost unrivaled still, I think, in terms of how much lore and complexity he built up around this world that he'd imagined. So yeah, definitely very good in that respect. But in terms of readability, I did find it dragged a bit. So yeah, not fantastic. So yeah, I've literally just finished that. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to read next. But I do have a couple of shorter horror novels on my Kindle. So I may give one of those a try. In fact, let me check, because there was one I had earmarked to read next. So I think it was Broken Shells by Michael Patrick Hicks. So I've read another one of his books, which was called, what was it called? I'm going to have to check what it was called. Bear with me. Yes, I doubted myself there. It's called The Resurrectionists, and I was thinking, I've read The Resurrectionist recently, but it was not The Resurrectionist. It was much better than that. So that's a really good kind of period horror novel about grave robbers in New Orleans, with a great take on racism and things like that in it as well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I've got a few of his other books on my Kindle because there was an offer a while ago, and I grabbed a few of them. So yeah, I think I'm going to give Broken Shells a try and see what that's like. And then beyond that, for February Fantasy Stories, I'm going to be reading Witches When It All Began, which is a kind of cosy mystery about a witch who's a private investigator. So that sounds like it should be fun. So that's for the Urban Fantasy week in February Fantasy Stories. And then beyond that, as I said last week, starting to think about March. So we've got March of the Mammoths coming up. I put a poll up, so I put a poll up on the community tab after my my video last week, my wrap-up video, and the book that was picked was Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. So I will be reading that for March of the Mammoths, and also going to be taking part in the what's it called, March Mystery Madness. So I've got some ideas for that, and I'll probably do a separate launch video for that to say what I'm going to be reading for that read along. So yeah, that's the books stuff. In terms of what's on the channel, so let me tell you what I had up this week in case you missed it, because I'm sure you wouldn't want to. So last Sunday I had a video I did comparing the way male and female characters are portrayed in both romance novels and pulp fiction. So comparing those two genres and the way they treat men and women and the relationships between men and women. That was quite a slightly different kind of video for me, but I quite enjoyed doing it. I did an Abominable Book Club unboxing on Monday, where I got a book that I've already got twice, so that was fun. I did the Springston Booktube Love tag. On Tuesday, I had part 7 of my library tour on Wednesday, which had crime, true crime and thriller books. And then yesterday, Thursday, I had a review of All Hallows Eve by Richard Layman, which is a cheesy pulpy horror book, but one that I quite enjoyed. And coming up in the week to come, so Saturday, obviously, you will get this wrap-up video, which I'm recording now. On Sunday, I've got another sort of comment type video, so me talking about a subject, and the subject this time is why I read trash, so look out for that one. On Tuesday, I will have the BookTube numbers tag video going up. So I did that tag, I filmed it a little while ago, and apologies because I accidentally, it was meant to go up next Tuesday, I accidentally published it for about 45 minutes this Tuesday. So if you saw it and you see it come up again next week, that's why. So apologies for that. It was a slight misscheduling on my part. Got part 8 of my library tour coming on Wednesday. So that's going to be kids and young adult books. And then on Thursday, we have another book review. So Confessions by Kane Minato, which was a really excellent Japanese kind of crime/horror novel. So a few things coming on the channel this week. So yeah, look out for those. Hope you enjoy them. As always, hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you're safe and well. Let me know what you've been reading. And I will speak to you again soon. Oh, and I forgot to say as well, so At the Mountains of Madness was book 62 in my 100 book challenge. So I'm nearly 2/3 of the way through. So yes, it won't be long now before I film a mega book haul. I may do a poll or something like that and get people to suggest what should be the first book I buy after I've finished my 100 book challenge. We'll see. So yeah, anyway, hope you're safe and well. Take care of yourselves. If you're in the UK, I hope you've survived the storm unscathed, and so is your property and your friends and family. And yeah, I'll speak to you again soon. Cheerio.